What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys are doing well out there. That is right. It is Friday, and it is a big Friday. I probably say that every week to try to get you to watch most of the video, but today in particular, we've got a ton of news, particularly if you're interested in Google and Tesla. There is a ton of news out of those companies. In fact, we saw massive moves in both of those companies to the upside. Now, also something that I don't always do is make some announcements, but I've got two important announcements before we get the show going. As many of you have asked, and now we are delivering. You've asked for the show to be available on Spotify. So from here forward, the FANG Stock Recap Show is available on Spotify, likely shortly after I upload it here to YouTube. So if you want to be first, it will be here on YouTube, and then sometime later on the day in Friday, it will be available on Spotify. The second announcement is I've got a new newsletter coming, new service. In fact, most people have asked me, they want more earnings videos. They want me to cover more than just technology stocks and big tech stocks on a regular basis. Now, we are going to continue that here on the channel for free. I will continue to do the FANG Stock Recap Show. I'll continue to cover all of FANG's earnings videos and post them here on YouTube. But the rest of the companies, the rest of the blue chip stocks will go into a new service that I'm going to call Blue Chip Stock Investor. You're going to get earnings videos. You're going to get recaps. You're going to get buy ranges. You're going to get the charts if you want to download them. You're going to get a lot of newsletters and updates on the entire blue chip stock industry. And that will be coming in January. Please subscribe down below to the newsletter. Links are in the description. Please subscribe to that, because if you're subscribed to that, I will give you a special discount when that goes live. Let's kick things off like we always do with Meta Platforms. Start of the week at 623. Basically just drifted sideways, finished the week at 620. Now, a lot of people, including myself, are wondering, man, we're literally just a couple of what are like teenagers going to do around the world and around the United States if TikTok actually gets banned? Because I think the hard deadline is sometime in January 19th. I think the day before Trump gets inaugurated. The president either has to extend it and give TikTok more time, or this thing will go into a hard ban. I don't know what the president wants to do. I don't think TikTok's going to come to an agreement or have something in place by then. So we'll see what happens. I think the key arbitrage spread, though, is if you have some devices that have TikTok preloaded, I'm talking like phones and stuff, well, those are going to sell like hotcakes on eBay if this goes through. So whether or not that's legal or not, I wouldn't recommend it, but that is probably going to happen. And I don't think the Supreme Court is going to step in here and do anything other than make TikTok divest away from its business. And this will be an ongoing story. We'll see what happens. Maybe TikTok completely goes away. I don't know. Now, the FTC chair picked by Donald Trump, obviously not in charge yet, but will likely be in charge in several weeks. I think his main thing is not necessarily stopping these big tech companies from making acquisitions. Now, could Meta go out there and buy Snapchat and buy TikTok? I don't think they'll allow that. And they really actually don't think they should allow something like that. But I think they'll allow smaller acquisitions. Certainly that iRobot Amazon deal, we'll talk about that when we get to Amazon, that probably should have went through. And I think the FTC under Trump will probably let a deal like that go through. Let an online retailer buy a vacuum maker. Seems like it would make sense. But what they are going to try to influence is this perception that conservative voices are muted or blacklisted or shadow banned or whatever the term you want to use on social media sites like Instagram, like Facebook, and others out there, Google's, YouTube, whatever. Now, whether or not that's the case, whether that actually happens, I don't know. I know we saw evidence of that over at Twitter. I couldn't even use Twitter for the longest time because the bias was so bad. Now it's probably swung a little too far the other way, but I think what these social media sites will find is finding a balance. They'll always be tilted one way or another, maybe slightly more conservative, slightly more liberal. I don't think there's any reason to worry about that. But when they get too far in one direction, I actually think from a business model perspective, it's probably not good. And so the FTC doing this is probably in the best interest of these social media companies. Now, Amazon and Meta are greasing the palms already of the Trump administration. Many of these other companies as well. They donated $1 million, which is, Meta could drop $1 million on the ground. All these companies could drop $1 million on the ground, maybe other than Netflix, and you wouldn't even notice it. It's barely a rounding error on the company's financials. So they're greasing the palms of these politicians. And look, that's probably what I would be doing too. Now, moving over to Apple, start of the week at 242 and some change. Up a decent 2% to finish the week at 248. We're basically at 52-week highs on this one. This is after the company announced that they're going to likely unveil satellite connectivity and other changes to the Apple Watch next year. The satellite connectivity will go to the high end. I think it's called the Apple Watch Pro or something like that. The Apple Watch Ultra, which is the highest end Apple Watch. That is where the satellite connectivity, that will be provided by GSAT, and that's GSAT. Not really recommending that as an investment because I think Starlink or SpaceX will eventually get into this business model and crush a lot of these smaller competitors. Now, the iOS 18 drop has been less than desired. I've seen a lot of people complain about it. I've noticed some things on the iPhone, certainly the icons on my iPad. I was like, what the heck? I've been too lazy to revert back, but I'm like, this is not good. I don't know what they're doing over at Apple, but it's not good. Now, great thing about software is you can constantly get feedback and improve it. The new 18.2 drops. That's going to have more of these artificial intelligence or Apple intelligence features that the company unveiled last year at the Worldwide Developers Conference. I don't have the newest iPhone unless I change cell phone plans, which I might. I don't think I'm going to get the new phone. I'm just going to ride and die with this one. But I have noticed these features roll out to the Macintosh computer or the MacBook that I use, and I haven't really seen anything super cool quite yet. But the company is working with Broadcom. We'll talk more about Broadcom when we get to the Nvidia segment. I'm sure if you've owned this stock, you probably had a party today because it was up 20%, reaching a $1 trillion valuation. Well, they are the go-to when you want to develop in-house custom AI chips. Google certainly knows this, and other companies as well. Now, other news as it relates to Broadcom and Apple is nearing components that used to be licensed from Broadcom on the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections, those potentially going in-house at Apple, as Apple's trying to move in-house not only on the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but also the modem connection as well. So Broadcom and Qualcomm seeing some of their licensed technology maybe get to kick to the curb, but with Broadcom, they've got other opportunities there. Now, the great country of India has the world chess champion Gukesh, and now they're going to be making AirPods even more in the country. I know that they're making quite a few iPhones at this point, and Apple very smartly, not just because of Trump and tariffs and all those types of things, but diversifying the supply chain into the country of India. Moving on to Amazon, start of the week at 229, drifted sideways to about 227, still very close to 52-week highs on that. You might recall that last week we had a story that an AWS executive, I think, made a little bit of a faux pas. My guess is he probably got reprimanded internally, got his wrist slapped a little bit. You're not supposed to say this stuff about partners, but he publicly stated that AWS is not seeing a ton of heavy demand for AMD's AI chips and that they're not really rolling them out to AWS. AMD had to come back and basically say, well, no, we've got a good relationship with that. It's not accurate. People are liking the AMD chips. And look, maybe AMD chips are not being used at AWS, but there are a lot of use cases for them. Is it as much as Nvidia? No, I don't think anybody's expecting that, but AMD's chip is very competitive in the marketplace outside of, obviously, Nvidia's offerings. Now, Microsoft, Amazon, and Big Tech are set to accelerate deals. This would be merger and acquisition deals after Lina Khan's departure in the FTC. This is the belief. This is being priced in maybe to a certain degree on Wall Street. This is according to Wedbush. I agree with this to a certain degree, but I think with Trump, and I think we learned this from the first administration, is there's always going to be a little bit of give and take from Trump. He's going to do some things that certainly support this argument that Microsoft, Amazon, Big Tech will make other acquisition. He's also going to do some things that might make it actually a little bit harder. But in general, those types of things actually create better opportunities for you as an investor. That hard line one way or another that the FTC was operating in, Well, these stocks have performed great under President Biden. So I don't want to say it doesn't not make the stocks go up. What it didn't do was create a lot of volatility and fluctuation. And I think we'll see that under President Trump. So have your eyes and ears ready, because there's going to be some opportunities coming in the next couple of years. Moving on to Netflix. Start of the week at 927, down about 1%, but not a lot of news out of Netflix this week. Moving on to the big boy, Nvidia. Start of the week at 138, down about 3% to finish the week at 134 and some change. We got a lot of China news out of Nvidia this week. As you know, when China opens up an anti-monopoly concern, you probably have a monopoly. Because there is a tinge of irony when the country of China claims your company has a monopoly, since the entire Communist Party and the communist government and economic system in China is basically built on kind of a monopolistic platform. So we'll see. I don't know what type of jurisdiction China has. They could claim Nvidia is a monopoly. If they don't want to buy their products, well, I guess that's fine. But Nvidia is increasing their headcount in China to boost its AI-driven car technology. We've got a lot of AI kind of self-driving robo-taxi news when we get to Tesla, a little bit of Microsoft as well. I'm sure you guys saw the news that Cruise dropping out of that race, I think obviously helps Nvidia. Nvidia is going to be kind of a sleepy partner in a lot of this. They obviously have a lot of software and technology, and a lot of their computer chips and GPUs kind of handle this type of thing, the training on the back end, but also on device or on car as well. It's going to be a growth area for this company, but a growth area, to be honest with you, for a lot of companies. Now, company is denying rumors that it's going to sever supplies into China. I guess maybe if China deems them a monopoly, maybe they'll get severed in that way, but there's no reason for Nvidia to do that. China is a big market for them, needless to say. And now I don't have it up here, but I did see rumors that President, and this is always a rumor and you never know what to believe, but the rumor is President Trump did invite President Xi of China to his inauguration. Whether or not President Xi shows up, I don't know, but at least if he extends the offering to show up to his, now it's like kind of a self-serving for Trump. It's like, hey, show up and watch me get inaugurated. Could be completely self-serving, but it would be interesting if that is the launching point of the Trump administration to get the two together when he comes into office. The China-U.S. relations have been terrible the last several years under Trump, and more importantly, under Biden as well. And if we get some easing there, well, I tell you what, there's no company that might benefit better than Nvidia. Now, the trio of semiconductor designers, and one is trying to manufacture chips, which is stupid, but the trio invested in Era Labs, valuing the startup at $1 billion. Now, Era Labs is based out here in San Jose, and there's this technology trend which will become apparent in the coming years is when you're trying to run data through copper, which is typically what you're doing on most of these semiconductors. Well, there's nothing faster than the speed of light, right? So if you can transfer data through light and laser and those types of things, well, you can make these semiconductors even faster. And so there's a lot of companies working on this, including this private company, Era Labs. But I'll tell you, there are public companies that are working on this. And I will also have a service. I have Blue Chip Stock Investor coming, but I'll also have a small cap version of this as well, head by a colleague of mine that is a bona fide expert in small caps. And this guy can find the best small caps I've ever seen. He's the best guy I've ever worked with. And we're happy to have him kind of join the team. And I'll have news on all of that at a future date. Now, as we said, Broadcom announced their earnings yesterday, went almost exactly how you thought they would. When Nvidia announced their earnings 3 weeks ago, I actually posted a video not on this channel, but on the Equity Empire channel that said, hey, Broadcom is going to be the clear winner here. If Nvidia's networking sales have gone down, well, that's going to transfer over to Broadcom. But what's interesting about the stock market, guys, especially in the semiconductor industry, is most investors, especially retail investors, not really talking to you in the crowd. If you're watching a show like this, you have the deep knowledge of most of these companies, but most people can't even tell you what Broadcom does. Most people can't tell you what Qualcomm does, let alone you start going down the stack of the semiconductor business. So when Nvidia announced that the attachment rate of their networking product was in the dumps, you knew 100% that it was going to benefit Broadcom. And, look, I'm not surprised. Shares of Broadcom up 24% today, $1 trillion valuation. I recommended the stock multiple times over the past years publicly to paid subscribers, and including 3 weeks ago for free on YouTube. Moving on to Google. Start of the week at 174, and we're pumping things up over at Google, up 8.6% to finish the week at 190. We're almost back. Oh my God, you're going to want to see this technically. Almost back at a 52-week high on Google. Now, they unveiled this, quote, mind-boggling quantum computer chip. Now, according to Google, it solved complex, or it's capable. Here's the key, that it's capable of handling complex calculation in 5 minutes that would take most supercomputers 10 septillion years, which is my understanding longer than the universe has been or at least Earth has been in existence, obviously. But here's the deal. As I read some really good research on this. First of all, let's get the obvious out of the way. Google is a premier semiconductor giant. They are designing in partnership, obviously, with other companies, but they are a premier. In fact, I would put the premier level chip designers in the country are Nvidia, clearly, AMD, clearly, Qualcomm as well. But Google, I would actually put number 4. I might even put Broadcom number 5 or somewhere in between there. And I would put them all ahead of Intel. This is a premier company. The fact that they can develop these quantum chips well before anybody else has seen this type of thing. But the devil's in the details here. The chip is capable of handling these complex calculations. Didn't actually solve the complex calculation, because I saw a lot of rumors on social media. Oh, well, this is the end of Bitcoin because it can break the encryption. This is the end of encryption because it can break encryption. No, not yet. You are still a ways away from that. And then obviously, if you can break encryption with a quantum computer, you could probably set up new encryption as well. Obviously, that's something that I'll have to get shaken out later on, but it could be more or less kind of a Y2K. Those of you that are old like me and remember Y2K, breaking encryption with a quantum computer, it's still more theory than reality, and that's something that we'll get to later on. But I don't want to gloss over the fact that this is showing you that Google is a premier, absolute premier semiconductor company, not only a search engine. Now, quantum stocks, other ones, Rigetti, IonQ, Qubit, all these other D-Wave, they skyrocketed. Most of these were penny stocks, relatively low valuation. Any type of positive news will benefit those types of stocks. Now, Google launched their new Gemini 2, which I played around with a little bit. I was paying for ChatGPT, the $20 a month or whatever, and I decided to actually stop paying for it. I've started using Grok over on Twitter. It has obviously a lot of information, a lot of data coming from Twitter, but I started playing around with Gemini and Anthropic and these other ones, and I just don't see a need for paying $20 a month. I'm being cheap, but where that $20 will go, 10 looks like it's going to YouTube TV. I'm a subscriber of YouTube TV, including YouTube Premium. I would like to see Google do a broad offering of bundle where they offer maybe Gemini Pro or whatever, YouTube TV, YouTube Premium, maybe some storage or whatever, like an Amazon Prime. Like, we need a Google Prime offering where we just get all the, maybe they send us a Pixel phone every 2 years or something. That would be an interesting business model. We'll see if they go that way, but YouTube getting ripped on social media as they raised prices by about $10 on that YouTube TV. Now, I'm going to the Consumer Electronics Show. I think I got emails today that we're just 3 weeks away from the Consumer Electronics Show, and there are going to be a ton. I've already got tons of emails of these companies that have these devices that you wear on your head. Now, Google and Samsung, they're going to show off kind of a mixed reality, like, developer kit on these types of things. As again, I have not been bullish on the metaverse and the Meta Quest or whatever it's called. And I was definitely not bullish on this Apple Vision. In fact, my last employer wanted me to do this big promotion on it. And I was like, guys, this thing is a dud. This was before it even came out. And they wanted to give them away and everything. And I was like, no, we should not do that. This is not going to be good. This is not going to be a good product. But maybe that opinion, and that opinion I think is accurate, but what you don't want to do as an investor is pigeonhole yourself for future iterations. It would be like saying, well, the flip phone by Motorola, 20 years ago, it wasn't good. Well, that evolved into this, the cell phone. And so these glasses and this stuff is going to evolve, and I'll be more bullish when it evolves into a different form factor. Now, the CEO, Sundar Pichai, is set to meet with President-elect Trump, as a lot of these tech companies given money and taken the knee to President Trump. And look, as a shareholder, it might like offend you if you're not a Trump fan or whatever, you don't like Trump. It might offend you a little bit, but again, we as investors, we have to separate ourselves. And as an investor, I want my company to be friendly with whatever administration is there. Now, Google, maybe it comes up in the Trump-Pichai meeting. They want the FTC to break up that Microsoft OpenAI cloud deal. And so we'll see what happens. There's going to be a lot of jockeying here, and it's going to be so exciting over the next couple of years. Moving on to Microsoft. Started the week at 442, up about 1%. Finished the week at 447. You want to see Microsoft technically as well. OpenAI launched Sora, which is an AI-powered video creator. We talked about it when it was initially kind of in beta mode, but essentially you can tell the computer to create you some video via text, and it does that, and it's relatively stunning. Now, the company also rolled out Canvas, which enables more coding and other custom GPTs inside the tool. Just further iteration and improvements on the ChatGPT model. Now, we've got a G42. So G42 is a state, I believe it's a state-sponsored company by Abu Dhabi, which is like one of the richest countries in the world. So this G42 is based in Abu Dhabi, and at one time they had ties to China. So they were supplying maybe some AI tech, maybe some other, they had some business deals with China. And a lot of people were crying foul. That is because Nvidia chips are going to G42. Other investment is going to G42. Now, Abu Dhabi wants to remain in the good graces of the United States. It's one of the very friendly companies to the United States in the region, the Middle East region. And so they want to maintain friendly ties there. So they say, and I tend to believe them, that they cut all ties to China. And so that's going to allow further investment. The reason why this is important is because, again, Abu Dhabi is loaded and they've got this state-sponsored G42. And they're going to pour a ton of money into AI and technology and software. That's going to benefit, obviously, companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, and the rest. Now, Microsoft shareholders, for some reason, took a call with Michael Saylor, who is literally the biggest cheerleader of Bitcoin that I've ever seen, and they voted no on Bitcoin. Now, I don't blame them for doing that because, first of all, this dude just loaded up on Bitcoin at probably a top, at least a short-term top. Microsoft should load up on Bitcoin when everybody thinks it's going to zero. Here's my advice about crypto and Bitcoin in particular. When everybody thinks crypto and Bitcoin's going to go to the moon and $1 million, that's probably when you should sell it, or at the very least, probably shouldn't buy a ton of it. And when everybody thinks Bitcoin's going to zero, that is when you buy it pretty much heavily. Now, Microsoft's going to face an $800 million charge for its investment, its sad investment, into GM's Cruise, as GM poured, I think, $10 billion into the failed robo-taxi, just showing you that there's some challenges there. Now, a company that's obviously going to benefit from that is Tesla. Started the week at $3.99, and we powered through that 420.69 number. In fact, we talked about this technically. Once you got above, I think it was 400, this thing could go to 500, like in a blink of an eye. And it's basically almost halfway there. Here we are at it's incredible, 436 on Tesla. Now, obviously, Tesla is going to benefit from GM dropping out of the robo-taxi race, but I think in general, GM didn't have much of a choice here or much of a chance. You've got more well-funded companies, both from a funding perspective and a technology perspective, and certainly Tesla is one of them. The company is wasting no time as they rolled out an autonomous driving feature called Actually Smart Summon, also known as ASS. This has been available, I think, for Tesla owners here in the United States for a little while. I noticed this feature and I showed it to my kids, at least like a video of it. You can be like in a busy parking lot, basically. And if you want your Tesla to kind of pull out of the parking space and come over to you, you can summon it. The use case I've seen is if the parking lot is flooded for whatever, it's been raining or something. Well, it might be smart to have the Tesla come over to you. I haven't used it. My kids always want me to use it. I haven't used it, but we've rolled that out into the country of China. Now, What I'm super bullish on for Tesla is this Optimus robot. I've had some people disagree with me with that. But when it comes to full self-driving, I think you're going to have a lot of winners. You're going to have a lot of companies that can compete there, including Nvidia, others. There's a lot of ways, and certainly Tesla will benefit from there as well. But I think where Tesla is playing on what we would call virgin snow, where there's basically no other company that is competing with them, at least on a high level, it's this Optimus robot. Tesla has the vision capabilities, the manufacturing capabilities, the battery technology, a lot of the physics and geometry of putting together this type of device. And if Tesla can be first to market with this, this would be very similar to getting first to market with an electric vehicle. And I think this Optimus product is at least a $1 trillion product, potentially more. That is why I continue to hold shares of Tesla. I think I have 128 shares of Tesla, and things are good. We might be going out to dinner tonight. Now, we talked earlier about the country of India. They not only have AirPods being manufactured there, they have the new world chess champion in Gukesh, but they also might be getting Tesla rebooting its expansion plans into the country, as this obviously is the emerging market all these companies want to get a piece of. And if Tesla can expand into there, that's probably good. Now, this didn't make a ton of rounds on media, but it could be driving the stock higher. More than all of these other headlines is that we had very, very credible reports that Tesla, and in fact, they said this on the conference call. It was interesting. Elon Musk said it on the conference call that, oh yeah, we're going to launch in the first half of 2025 a more affordable model. And I don't think anybody believed them. And why would you? You haven't seen prototype of the car. You haven't seen a picture of that. Tesla tends to do that. And Elon Musk, whenever he gives you a timetable for something, it's usually 2 or 3 years later. Now, it tends to come true, but it's usually 10 years later. But the company is planning to launch a car in the first half of next year that, without the subsidies that Trump plans to cancel, would cost about $37,500 on the low end with a subsidy, would get you down to about $30,000. It would be a smaller vehicle based on the kind of the Model 3 design, but it would be smaller and lighter and obviously a little bit cheaper. Many investors in the past said this was kind of what they were waiting for with Tesla. I'm telling you, if you look at the statistics here in the United States, people do not buy cheap cars. The vast majority of cars sold here in the United States are more expensive than this. I think this will be a good selling product. I think it'll move the needle over at Tesla, but I think some of the stuff that they're working on with self-driving and certainly the Optimus is a bigger opportunity than just a cheaper car. Now, Elon Musk's SpaceX valuation balloons to $350 billion as I placed my order for Starlink, as AT&T internet constantly goes out over here, and I almost chucked my laptop into the modem yesterday when I was recording that Broadcom video. Now, moving over to the technical segment of the show, a little bit of a pullback in markets. If you get a deeper pullback, that would be exciting. Back test to the high if you want to be aggressive. Back into the 5,900 range. That's your first buying opportunities. Further back, we'll get more and more excited. Meta made a break to the upside, just confirmed a new higher high, and is doing exactly what you'd expect it to do. Pull back after that level. Pullbacks in Meta, particularly probably back here to 560. I mean, we like to see it go deeper, but doesn't seem like that's the trend right now. Apple just confirmed a new higher high as well. I don't have my colors set up perfectly on the Apple chart, but you get the picture. We're at the top of the range. You can buy here at the top of the range, but usually when you're at the top of the range, you're expecting some kind of pullback. Now, they've been very small over basically the second half of this year, so I wouldn't blame anyone for wanting to step in sooner than that. Also, Amazon just confirmed also a very beautiful, I mean, we are on a steep uptrend. Needless to say with Amazon, this one just scorching higher. New higher high on this one. You're also, again, waiting for pullbacks on that one. Netflix also just confirmed a new higher high, also showing you kind of the blow off top. I know traders, this is what they wait for. You wait. I don't trade this way. This is not a trade setup that I usually go for, but I know very successful traders that wait for this. You wait for an all-time high setup and you play for the blow off top, because when we get to Tesla, you're going to see exactly the same thing. Nvidia retested this gold trend line that has been intact since October. We held it this week. You can step in and buy Nvidia if you think this trend line will hold. Now, this is a steeper trend than the longer term trend. The longer term trend is shallower, and we've obviously gone parabolic since kind of the launch of AI in the back half of 2022. If you think that's going to continue, there's no reason to think that it won't. Nvidia is a buy. Google, my goodness, just created a new higher high on this one. This one's looking absolutely sensational. Pullbacks in Google back to this. I have a weird black trend line in here. Probably take that off if we want to, but that's your first buying opportunity. Maybe back into the low 180s on this one. You really don't have to wait, I guess, too much if you think these trends are going to continue. Now, we did say here on the channel multiple times when we touched this green box here in the 400-ish range, it was a buy. I put my money where my mouth is. I bought Microsoft, both in a retirement account, both in a short-term account. Thought about taking profits today or this week, but I was like, I don't care. Life's good. I'm going to YOLO this one. Come back up here to a higher high. You make a higher high on Microsoft back up to 480. I'll peel off the short-term position, staying in the long-term retirement position. Pullbacks on that one can be bought. And then here's your blow off. And I think we might just be beginning with Tesla. In fact, you just kind of tested the highs. Now, two scenarios with Tesla. Come up here at the highs. You hover there for a minute and then you get rejected. There's just a lack of buyers. You get rejected. It is a buy. The other scenario, obviously we saw with Netflix. You've seen it with like Palantir. There's been a few other stocks as well that we've looked at where you get above this high and it can be just anti-gravity shoes get put on. And I think you can push easily into the $500 range. It's not an area where I would buy. It's an area where you can play the trade. You're waiting for pullbacks in Tesla. If you do have that blow off top scenario, you're waiting for a back test of the previous high back here at 430. So you have a decision to make with Tesla. You can buy here hoping for the breakout. You can wait for the breakout, wait for the pullback, or wait for the rejection. I know you don't tune in here on YouTube or now on Spotify to hear me tell you the stock might go up, it might go down, it might go sideways, but in some cases, when you're at certain positions, you got to make those decisions for yourself. Folks, that was Fang Stock Recap Show for Friday, December 13th. Have a safe weekend. Thank you all for tuning in and your support. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter. Links are down below. I can't wait to bring this new service for you. We're going to be doing basically 100 earnings videos per quarter. That is literally like 80 hours of work just on its own, just recording and editing the videos, maybe even a little bit more than that. So I'm going to be putting in the time. And if you want to be a part of it, I would appreciate it. There's always going to be free content here on the Investor Channel, but we're always going to try to improve things as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. We'll see you again next week on the Fang Stock Recap Show. Good luck with your investments.